on SCC, the crew take a look at the impact of grading on the sports card market. Then give their thoughts on 2 top grading companies increasing their rates. All this now on SCC.
Welcome to episode 12 of Sports Cards Culture. I'm Chris. I'm here with Josh, Cardboard Chronicles, Kristina's PC, and Nick, Stiff Arm Wax. All right, today let's talk about the impact of grading on the sports card market. Third-party authentication, grading, and encapsulation of sports cards is an essential element of the sports card industry. Numerous companies exist in which employee graders authenticate a sports card and assign it a technical grade based on its condition, and the card is then sealed inside of a slab and returned to the collector who submitted it. Josh, let me hit you with the question right away here. Why do grading companies exist? Why would collectors send their cherished cards away for extended periods of time to have a grading company review and encapsulate them?
It's really simple, actually. It's confidence. Collectors, they want confidence to know that what they're buying is, what they're getting, and to have a third party, unbiased party come in and put a technical grade on it tells me as the buyer, okay, I know what I'm getting. I know what condition this card is in. I don't have to trust the seller to tell me specifically what's wrong with it. I can just look at the grade and know, here's what I'm buying. My money is going specifically for this condition.
And Kristina, same question to you. Why do grading companies exist, and do you think they should?
I mean, obviously, grading companies exist for the purpose that Josh already laid out for us, but I think that also grading companies exist so that Card Ladder can exist.
Oh, that's why they came into being, huh?
Yeah. So
30 years ago, PSA said one day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, so that you can know the valuation of a certain copy of a card, and that's what I mean. So that you could know that this Luca Prism base card is worth X amount, but this other one, which is graded higher, is worth 2X
So you're
more.
saying grading cards help to commoditize sports cards, create
that's
categories
what I
and
said.
tiers of them. Very good. All
Everyone
right.
heard that.
Good. Most grading companies use a similar scale for grading cards. The very best grade attainable by a card, which is used by companies like BGS and SGC, is the grade of pristine. The next best is gem mint, which is the highest grade that PSA provides. The next step down is typically mint, although SGC actually has a grade called mint plus that exists between gem mint and mint. And to complicate things even a bit further, different grading companies sometimes associate different numerical scores with certain grades. So, for example, a PSA gem mint is associated with 10, whereas a BGS gem mint is associated with 9.5. So each grading company's website explains its respective grading scale, and that information is definitely worth reading if anything I just said sounds unfamiliar. Kristina, did I say anything unfamiliar to you there?
No.
Good. All right, so slabbed cards command a significant premium on the market. So, for example, using Card Ladder's Compare tool, I can see that the most recent sale of the 1996 Topps number 138 Kobe Bryant in the following grades are this. The BGS 10 Pristine Gold label is $16,000. The PSA 10 is about $7,000. The BGS 9.5 is about $2,600. The PSA 9, $1,400. The PSA 8, $680. And the Raw, $520. This means, for example, that if your Raw 1996 Topps Kobe receives a grade of BGS 10 Pristine, the value increases by $15,500 or a multiplier of 31. If it receives a PSA 10, the value increases by $6,500. Even if it grades a PSA 8, the value increases by $150. All right, let's stop here for a second. Josh, why does a BGS 10 Pristine Gold label bring nearly $10,000 more for this card than a PSA 10 Gem Mint?
Well, it's no secret that card isn't rare on its own. but the grading scale and system that's in place and that you described is creating rarity within that card. So for someone to be able to say, I own, one of the rarest copies of this card, it's an iconic card, it's an important card for Kobe, but there's just a lot of them. And so for someone that wants to collect it or own it, they can then say, I own this incredibly rare version of this card in a pristine grade, which I'm not sure that was the initial intention of grading. It's just sort of like the market has been created that way organically through, this is what people want. They want the higher grades. And, this kind of exemplifies people buying the grade and not the card because, for a lot of collectors, you just want to have it mint in general. But in this case, you're actually taking it a step further and saying, no, it has to be absolutely perfect. It's got to be in the holder that says it's perfect, and then then it'll command the extra dollars.
Now, next question here to follow up on that. We've heard a lot about, and we've done a lot of research ourselves on the gap that exists between PSA 10 gem mint and BGS's equivalent, which is the 9.5 gem mint. Why does a PSA 10 gem mint of this Kobe bring nearly $4,500 more dollars than a BGS 9.5 gem mint?
I mean, that ratio has been growing over time. I think it's a perception thing at this point. The perception is that PSA is the superior grading company, that the PSA 10 is a superior grade to the 9.5. It would take some pretty heavy research to prove that a PSA 10 actually is better condition at the ratio that the prices dictate. And I'm not sure that would hold up, but I think to simplify it, like, people see the 9.5 and they see the 10 and they just rather have the 10. It's just simpler. It's easier for someone coming into the market to understand. I think that's the reason the ratio has been growing, is more and more new people are coming in, and the less experienced you are, the more you just want the 10. Like, you don't want to try to figure out the fact that they're both gem mint. You just look at the number 10, 9.5, 10's got to be better. I want that.
And it did occur to me as I was putting together some of the initial thoughts for this episode that this stuff is really kind of convoluted and complex in a way that, as a first time participant in sports cards, I would be sort of scratching my head.
And the reason the next question is, like, why is the BGS 10 then more expensive than the PSA 10? Because the BGS 10 is, like, significantly harder to achieve. There's always way less BGS 10s in the population than there are PSA 10s. So, like, at a certain point, the rarity does overtake sort of the perception and prestige of PSA, but still the ratios heavily lean towards PSA.
Definitely. And even a PSA 8, which is considered near mint to mint, still sells for 30% more than the raw copy of this Kobe. Why do you think that is?
I mean, that's an older card. I would say, like, in general, if you were to randomly select a card from someone on eBay that was raw on that, it'd probably be like a 6 or a 7. So like an 8 does command a tiny premium. On the really modern stuff, a PSA 8 is probably worth less than a raw, because in general that's like below average. So people could just, like, buy a raw and then potentially get a 9 or a 10 and, like, beat that 8. So they'd rather just, like, take the chance on the raw. But on that older stuff, it just depends on, like, how old it is, what's the average grade, if you were to randomly select a card.
Got it. Kristina.
Yes.
Do you think that the market for a sports card should be so severely stratified that a BGS 10 can cost $15,500 more than a raw copy? Does that make sense to you?
I think it depends on the card. Like, when we're talking about an older card, yes, of course, because, like, those cards have been in circulation for so long. The raws, if there are that many, like, like Josh said, that they're pretty low grades. But when you get a 10 of an old card, it's kind of like a unicorn.
Right.
Like, even no matter what the pop is, like, you're just like, oh my gosh, I got a 10.
Indeed.
Because
it's even tough to get 10s on modern cards.
Well, yeah, but it was especially tough. Like, think about
BGS 10s.
Yeah, think about, like, the manufacturing, like, differences, and, like, the way that technology has grown in the past 30 years. And you obviously apply that to how sports cards are printed and cut and packaged. So I think that, like, hopefully.
All right, now I have a question for you. Would you rather have a BGS 10 of a Luka, like the Prism base, which is rare? Like Josh said, it creates scarcity when you start tiering stuff by grade. Or would you rather have a lower grade or a raw copy of a more rare card? Grading scarcity or card scarcity?
Card scarcity.
And Josh, let me ask you the same thing. Grading scarcity or card scarcity? Which one appeals to you more, assuming price is constant?
You already know the answer, man. It's the card scare. I love a good PSA 9 of a super rare card, or BGS 9. Those are like the collector grades where you're like hunting and hunting. You need to find this card. You want to know that it's mint, and you want it slabbed, you want it mint, and you want to try to find that super rare card. So like finding that 9 of a super rare card is just like, it's perfect.
Coming up on Sports Cards Culture, 2 top grading companies increase their rates.
Imagine everything you love about the hobby in the palm of your hand. An entire store at your fingertips. Everything you need to know about cards is within your grasp. Unlock the secrets of the hobby. Plus, so much more. You don't have to imagine anymore. It's here. Card Ladder. Get the app today.
You're watching SCC, Sports Cards Culture. Keep up with the crew and follow them on all the socials. Plus, join Josh and Chris and sometimes special guest Kristina every Friday night on Instagram Live. The Crossover.
All right, hopefully we've got a foundation in place for understanding why grading exists and the impact that it has on the market for a specific card. In the last month or so, 2 of the most well-known sports card grading companies, PSA and BGS, have both announced rate increases for their services. The cheapest services offered by both companies are now as follows. PSA's value service, which requires you to be a Collectors Club member, now costs $20 per card. It once was $10. The turnaround time at this service level is currently 7 months, and I calculated this and all other forthcoming PSA turnaround times using their complete through calendar, which is on their website. It costs $99 a year to be a Collectors Club member, and anytime you submit cards at this service level, you must do at least 10. BGS, similarly, has something called an economy service level, which costs $35 per card, or $20 if you don't want their subgrades. Beckett's website says the turnaround time for this service level is 8 or more months. PSA also has an economy service level, which is $50 per card, and it also has a turnaround time of 7 months, just like value. But this service level is currently suspended. It does not require you to be a member of the Collectors Club, however, to use it. All right, so Josh, basically what we're looking at here is a cost of $20 per card minimum to submit through PSA, or $35 through BGS with subgrades, $20 to BGS without subgrades. In any event, it's taking 7 to 8 months for the cards to be graded and returned to you. How does PSA and BGS setting their minimum price at $20 for this service level impact the sports card market?
Oh, I mean, it affects it greatly, obviously. I think it mostly affects the people that were trying to grade and flip cards, valued under $100. If you're taking like some base card worth $100 and you're trying to grade it and flip it for $200, let's say, and that $20 plus the time that you have to wait is really eating into your risk for attempting this grade and flip game, and it's almost making it impossible, to be quite frank. And it's really pushing the the need to grade a card up in the value level. So like you'd only be grading cards at this point that are worth, $200-$300 to make it worth the while.
Definitely. I was doing a little bit of digging, like hypothetically, what if I had submitted something that just came back today, like a Michael Porter Jr. Prism base? So 8 months ago, using Card Ladder, I can see that card went for $15 raw. And it's been on a roller coaster ride since. If it came back today, after the 8-month wait, the PSA 10 is $215, and the PSA 9 is $65. And the raw is about $35 at today's prices. So in that case, I think we're sort of getting to that like lowest level of card where you have to do a lot of math here. You have to look at what's the likelihood of this card getting a 10, getting a 9. What's the current value that the raw is trading at? Should I just sell the raw instead of trying to grade it? Can I wait 8 months and, is Michael Porter Jr. ever going to be bubble Michael Porter Jr. again, or is he going to, continue to be in an awkward position? There's so many variables, like Josh said. But there's also still profit to be made if you can pull the PSA 10 off.
If your card is like, if you're really confident it's going to get a PSA 10, you still grade it almost like no matter what happens to the prices, because as prices go up, that's going to deter certain people from sending in, meaning there's going to be less in the population, meaning the value of the PSA 10s are going to go up. So like the PSA 10 grade kind of like combats all of the logic and math that you throw at it, and it's always going to command a premium. So if you think it's like really strongly, a high chance to get a PSA 10, you send it, even with all the math. But if it's like, yeah, I'm not sure, it's probably a 9, then it might not be worth it anymore for those low value cards. But like the Porter Jr. $65, you spent $15, $20 to grade, 8 months time, inflation, shipping, taxes, like it just doesn't make any sense anymore if it's going to get a 9.
I really like the imagery of PSA 10 just defeating math and logic. It's just it's so powerful. If one of the results of this is that PSA 10 cards have even more of a premium because there might be less of them, especially for like, base cards on the periphery of being worth grading, does that make the boxes worth more or less? Do you see it changing the way box prices work out? Because if you were to open a 2018 Prism box right now, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of cards coming out of there that people would submit to grade that sort of factors into the box price. So, Kristina, I guess my question is, are you worried at all that if PSA 10 prices go up even more and people are still submitting at these higher service levels and everything just inflates a little bit more, that box prices are going to get even more expensive for you?
I am now.
Okay. But Josh, maybe I'm off base there. Maybe it works the other way. Maybe less cards get graded, more stuff gets kept raw. What do you think?
I was thinking like you've pointed this out to me, like one of the reasons that you're okay buying boxes is that I'll just grade all the rookie base cards in here and I'll make my money back. Well, if you're not going to do that anymore, is it really worth it to buy the box so that there may be less demand to get the boxes at that point? Because I feel like a lot of people are buying boxes just to get all the base cards out of there and just send them in and make some money. And that's getting harder and harder to do, so there's an argument that way.
Wait, so am I or am I not allowed to continue to open box?
That's the fun thing. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out.
Guys, this is vital to my hobby experience.
I just caused a small existential crisis. Josh, these service levels that I described, the lowest level ones, are available to anybody who accesses PSA and BGS's websites, but cards can also be submitted through something called group submission programs. Could you explain what a group submission is, what its advantages and disadvantages are, just sort of a brief synopsis of how a collector gets involved in one and why they might want to?
Yeah, so a group submitter would take advantage of the membership fees. They would pay the membership fees, and then they would take in cards from multiple people and then grade on their behalf, send the cards in, and probably charge a little bit of a premium over what they're getting charged by the grading company, obviously, so they can make money. So they might charge 25, and then they'll get charged 20 per card by PSA, so they're making 5 a card or whatever their markup is for the specific group sub. The pro for a collector like myself, I don't have to do all the paperwork with a lot of them. Like they'll do the PSA submission paperwork. Sometimes they actually live near the grading company. A lot of group submitters, that's a key part of it, is that they live close because they can actually walk it in, so there's less risk of shipping, even though you have to ship it to them. But you may feel more comfortable shipping it to a person than to a grading company. So there's some pros and cons there. The con, I guess, you're entrusting your cards to someone else, and you're kind of like having a middleman to a middleman kind of scenario, and it gets a little bit convoluted and further away from your own possession. So pros and cons. I've done group subs in the past. Lately, I haven't, just because I feel like the rates that you get through a group submitter aren't worth it anymore. Because they're not getting any free subs when they pay for the membership anymore. So like the rates are sort of increasing on their end. Like, I just feel like I could just do it myself. There was like some perception, maybe some rumors that like if you send it to a group sub, you'll get higher grades because they submit more. So like the grading companies want to keep those people happy, so they give them higher grades. I've actually seen no data to support that, no truth. That's mostly just like a rumor, some perception, just people making things up. I've never actually seen any proof towards that.
It often seems to be the group submitters who hold that belief as well, perhaps not coincidentally. Now let me quickly review the other grading levels offered by PSA and BGS, and then we'll comment on them to wrap up the show. Both companies offer a 5-month turnaround time service. PSA charges $100 per card, while BGS charges $50 for subgrades and $30 for cards without. PSA offers a service with a turnaround time of 2 months. The cost is $150. For that same $150, BGS offers a 10 to 15 business day turnaround time for cards with subgrades, $100 for cards without. Finally, PSA has a 6 business day service that costs $300 and a 3 business day service that costs $600. That's the walkthrough service level. And BGS, at its highest level, offers a 5 to 10 business day service that costs $250 per card with subgrades or $125 without.
So are neither company anymore is doing like the 1-day service?
Well, they ostensibly walk through as a 1-day service level, but it's become a 3 business day service level.
So it's not a walkthrough anymore. Like you can't just drop it off.
It's a crawl.
You can't just drop it off in the morning, go have brunch, and then come back. Like
Josh, you grade cards, as Kristina mentioned. We grade cards. Many people in this hobby grade cards. How are you navigating the current grading system? Has anything changed for you in light of these new grading fee structures?
I also wanted to point out one thing you missed, that PSA actually requires you to hit one of those service levels based on the value of the card. So if you try to submit a $10,000 card at a $20 service level, when they get it and they grade it, they're going to upcharge you to what you should have sent it in, and it took longer to get it. So it's actually in your best interest to send it at the proper level based on the value. This has changed my approach just in the floor of a value of a card that I will attempt to grade, and it's honestly raised to about the $300 to $400 range. I know that there's still margins at the lower levels, but it just for me, like, I've adjusted to look for profits when I'm buying and selling graded cards at about the $300 to $400 range at the minimum. And for collection cards, it's pretty much the same. Like, I'm very cautiously sending in cards. I'm just honestly buying more cards already graded, and I think that's why we're gonna probably see a premium on already graded cards. Like that stuff's just more rare now than it was. It's just gonna be harder and harder to get it. I've graded a ton of cards, and because the main question I get is like, is one grading company harder? Are they playing favorites? Was it harder in the past than it is now? There's all these different variables that go into that, and it's very hard to prove any of it. The only thing that I've noticed as a general pattern is that my really high-end stuff is just, they're more critical on the grade. They spend more time on it. They're clearly looking for more flaws. Like, I'll get a PSA 8 on something that's super expensive that a similar condition in a lower value card, it's a 9 all day. That's the only pattern I've noticed. So I think that's just more them being conscious of what it is that they're grading, the super high dollar stuff, and they're just more critical of it. That's the only pattern. And even then, I'm not scientifically going to be able to prove it.
All right, final question here for episode 12 to each of you. Big picture, what is the state of grading right now? What do these new rates portend for the future of the hobby?
Well, I think you have multiple options. Like, we've laid them out about PSA and BGS and how people are going to move forward with grading with those two companies based on the new prices and the new price structures and turnaround times. But we also didn't really touch on the fact that there are grading companies popping up, and there have been grading companies in the hobby for a while now. So are we going to see customers and hobbyists pivot away from upcharges and long turnaround times to a company that can guarantee turnaround times at their same, like, what hobbyists consider the normal grading level and grading price?
I would just really caution people, though, to like want to reach for like, oh, I'll just send it to a different grading company, because when I started with the show, the word was confidence. And if I don't have confidence in a grading company that's been around for 6 months, knowing that that card is going to maintain its value and its prestige, years down the line, then I'm just, it's not worth it to me. I think, though, what's going to end up happening is you're probably going to have one of those companies start to take market out of the low-end grading market, like we're talking about. So people will adjust. The people who are buying cards at that level, the $10 to $100 range, they might see more appeal to grade with one of those grading companies, and maybe we see some market taken away there. People will probably grade less base cards. Honestly, that's probably going to be the main takeaway, and people will put more focus on what they are grading. And I actually kind of prefer it this way. I don't want to take a stance, because I know people are upset that they can't grade cards as often. But in my perfect world, we put less emphasis on the grading and more on the actual cards and the rarity that comes with the cards that were as they were manufactured. And so this might push us more towards that, because there's just it's less about the greed because you're making less because it costs more. So maybe people will shift their mindset back towards the cards. That's kind of my pie in the sky. That probably won't happen, but we'll see.
Do you see how he brought it full circle there too, by going back to confidence? That was good. Yes.
And Chris, same question.
The question to me. I think that what is healthy in expanding markets is for specialization to occur and segmentation to occur. And I'll give the example of we already see it sort of naturally happen, but not really. Like thicker cards tend to go to BGS, like patch autos. They have thicker slabs. Chromium finish cards tend to go to PSA. The PSA, the plain white label, and the slab without the sleeve inside to protect the card really makes shiny cards pop. So these sort of things sort of naturally happened. And I think if it was deliberate, it could be exploited to a much greater effect to the benefit of the hobby. If different grading companies segmented and specialized in different areas and really developed their expertise, the hobby would be the better for it. And I think what you and Josh alluded to, by PSA raising its floor to $20 per card, it does create a big opening for those grading companies that want to provide $8 per card. So that will create a segmentation. But by the same token, if these other grading companies don't want to step up and sort of assert themselves as we specialize in this segment, we specialize in this other segment, and one company says we want to take the whole market share pretty much, maybe we'll cut off the bottom and let somebody else sort of deal with the super low end, but we want to take everything else. And if the other grading company just stands by and lets them do it, then we're not going to have segmentation. We're going to have one huge whale in our pond of an industry. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks for sharing.
All right. This has been episode 12 of Sports Cards Culture. See you guys next week.
Thanks for watching. Tell us in the comment section below what the crew should cover next week, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time in SCC, Sports Cards Culture.